Shall we begin with an exercise? Think about where you were 10 years ago. 10 years ago was May of 2008. Where were you living 10 years ago? Where were you working 10 years ago? What were you doing 10 years ago? Now think about this. Where were you going to church 10 years ago? Or not? What were you doing at that church? How involved were you? Let me ask you this, be honest. 10 years ago, where you were, what you were doing, had you heard of independent Catholicism? I'm going to be honest. 10 years ago, I had never heard of independent Catholicism. 10 years ago, I was in my third year as president of San Juan Diego Catholic High School, preparing to graduate our third class of graduates of San Juan Diego. Very exciting. 10 years ago, I never had heard of independent Catholicism. It would be 2 more years until I heard of independent Catholicism, because when I was pastor at Cristo Rey, we had the report that a schismatic priest was celebrating baptisms and first communions somewhere in a garage in South Austin, and this was not cool. A schismatic Mexican priest was in town celebrating the sacraments. I had no idea at the time that he was an independent Catholic priest. I just knew the word that came to me. Right? Wow. The first time that I would learn about independent Catholicism after 10 years in the seminary, after 10 years in the Roman Catholic seminary system, I'd never once heard of independent Catholicism. The first person that I would learn about independent Catholicism through was Alberto Garcia, a local attorney, who in 2012 said, "Father, you should join the American Catholic Church in the United States." And I said, "What's the American Catholic Church in the United States?" And he pulled up the website and showed me. That was the first time I learned about independent Catholicism. I had no idea about it before then. And you? Had you heard of it before 2012? Most people haven't heard about independent Catholicism. They haven't heard about what it is, so they have different misconceptions, different wrong ideas about who we are. And so when they ask me who we are, I'm excited to be able to tell them, right? When they're trying to understand, well, who are you, right? I explained to them, there are different Catholic churches. We're most familiar with the largest Catholic church is the Roman Catholic Church. We've probably all heard of that, over 1 billion people. Second largest of the Catholic churches, the Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church with more than 300 million people. That's the church that excommunicated the Roman Church in 1054. Many people may have heard of the Greek Orthodox Church, the Orthodox Church. And then there are all sorts of smaller churches now that are part of this very rich independent Catholic tradition. It began with a problem in 1724. 1724, there was a Roman Catholic bishop, Dominique Marie Varlet, born in France, later stationed in Canada, then moved over to modern-day Iran. He was passing through Holland, and the people there said, "Would you please consecrate for us a bishop? Rome will not consecrate a bishop for us." What did he do? He consecrated a bishop. And then another, and then another. This is the question. What do you do when a Roman Catholic bishop consecrates another bishop without Rome's permission? In sacramental theology, we know that sacraments are referred to as being licit and or as valid. Licit means they're legal. You could legally do that. Valid means that what you did is a true sacrament. So in the case of this bishop, what we had was a sacrament, someone who was consecrated, which was not legal. It was not licit. He wasn't supposed to. He wasn't allowed to do that. But it was valid. Follow me? It was valid, but not licit. So now suddenly we have another valid bishop, validly consecrated without Rome's approval. That was a problem for the church. And it led to what we today refer to as the Old Catholic Church. And it's important for us to understand that here at Holy Family, because we are not old Catholics. And I sometimes hear independent Catholic priests and bishops talking as if they were old Catholics, and the old Catholic Church just cringes and says, y'all are not part of the old Catholic Church. The old Catholic Church is a thing. It is the thing that was born in 1724 when that bishop, Dominique Marie Varlet, consecrated another bishop, and they formed what they call today the Old Catholic Church. We love our brothers and sisters in the Old Catholic Church. They are another independent Catholic church. They're a Catholic church outside of Rome, but we are not Old Catholic ourselves. The problem further compounded itself in 1870. In 1870, the Pope had a problem. 14 years before, he had declared that Mary was conceived without sin. We refer to it as the Immaculate Conception. The Immaculate Conception, often abbreviated as IC. Well, the IC caused the IC, Independent Catholicism. Because this Immaculate Conception that he proclaimed years before, he was now thinking, how do I bring together the church? I have an idea. The way that I'm going to bring together the church, which is now divided of people arguing over whether it's true that Mary was immaculately conceived or not, I have a way to bring the people together. We're going to declare that I was infallible when I made that statement, and so we can all be united as one. Did that work? Caused a schism in the church, with bishops and priests leaving the church and saying, we cannot, in good conscience, faithfully follow this church. We can't do this any longer. This is craziness. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. True or true? We all put our pants on one leg at a time? The Pope puts his pants on one leg at a time. There is no one who is infallible. Split the church. So the independent Catholic movement then descends from this movement of priests and bishops who continue to celebrate the sacraments of the church outside the Roman Catholic Church, sacraments that are not licit according to the Roman Catholic Church. They're not licit, they're not legal. Father Jayme does not legally celebrate sacraments at Holy Family. But those sacraments are valid. Which is why I will argue, if anyone ever comes to this church and says they will not accept a sacrament certificate, I will go to that church office myself, because my sacraments and the sacraments of anyone in this room are valid, even if they may not be licit or legal. Your sacraments may not be legal. You may not be celebrating it legally according to the Roman Catholic Church, but your sacraments are valid. So it creates this challenge. But what I'd like to do this afternoon is to help to situate us within this context of independent Catholicism, and then catch you up to speed on a project that Father Libardo and I have been launching over a few recent lunches. So first of all, the context. Because many of us here in Austin, we know Holy Family, but let's start thinking about these concentric circles. Are you ready? Concentric circles, one circle inside of another. Holy Family is the smallest circle, and that's what we know here in Austin. Holy Family is a circle this big. Ready for the next circle? The next circle we're going to draw around Holy Family. Here's Holy Family, and we're going to draw a circle around it. The circle around Holy Family is the American Catholic Church in the United States, or the ACCUS. Holy Family is part of the ACCUS, part of the American Catholic Church in the United States. So far, so good. The ACCUS, ready for the next circle, is part of independent Catholicism here in the United States, which is comprised of all sorts of churches, jurisdictions, bishops, priests, right? Independent Catholicism in the next larger circle. So Holy Family, I often refer to as an independent Catholic community. An independent Catholic community. We are a Roman but not Roman Catholic community. Or as I like to say, we are an inclusive Catholic but not Roman Catholic community. So Holy Family is part of the American Catholic Church in the United States, which is part of independent Catholicism in the United States, which is part of a larger movement of worldwide independent Catholicism, which includes people like the Old Catholic Church in Holland, in the Netherlands, which is part of another circle, if we're ready, which is part of the independent sacramental movement, which means that there are independent Anglicans and other persons outside of the Catholic Church. There are persons outside of the Catholic Church who wouldn't be considered part of the independent Catholic movement, but who are part of a larger independent sacramental movement, or ISM for short. How's that for eye-opening? Why I think that's important for us is that people know who come to Holy Family are able to situate us in that context so that people don't think that we're Roman Catholic. Let's not lead people to think that we're Roman Catholic. We're not Roman Catholic for a moment. We're not. I am not a Roman Catholic. I was ordained a Roman Catholic priest. But Holy Family in the church that I serve, the way that I now identify, is part of this large circle of independent Catholicism in the United States, which is part of independent Catholicism worldwide, which is part of the independent sacramental movement, outside of and independent from Rome. The Roman Catholic Church has its thing. We love, we respect the Roman Catholic Church. We just have a different church. Holy Family is part of the ACCUS, which is part of independent Catholicism, which is part of the independent sacramental movement. Why all of this is important to us, in my mind, is for us to be thinking not only of ourselves here at Holy Family, which is tempting. You know, we come to church every Sunday and we think about ourselves, which is natural. But how do we start thinking about the ACCUS? And how do we start thinking about the larger church? Which is why it's important for me, for us to be able to connect with our brothers and sisters in the ACCUS, because it's not just Holy Family doing its own thing, or as we used to call it, Father Jayme's church. I'm so glad we have other clergy now, right? Right? Because we used to call it Father Jayme's church, which was us focusing right here. Isn't that what it is? Holy Family is part of the American Catholic Church in the United States, which is why we always love having our Archbishop with us, because it shows our connection to this larger reality of the church, the ACCUS. But then the ACCUS is part of this larger circle, which is independent Catholicism, which is where my concern becomes, and this is where we started last October, was thinking about how do we help to take a look at what we're doing and to understand it better so that we can help all of these people rather than just thinking about ourselves. We can think about ourselves, but at the same time, why not see how we can help all these other people? Because the larger they get and the stronger they get and the more unity we enjoy, then suddenly the stronger we all are. La unión hace la fuerza, we say in Spanish, right? Unity creates power. I think one of the reasons that currently independent Catholicism enjoys so little influence and so few people know about independent Catholicism today is because we keep doing our own things in our own small communities all over the United States, and we have no idea how many other people are doing what we do here in Austin. Can you guess how many other people are doing what we're doing here in Austin? We're going to come back to that in a moment. In the meantime, I just want to catch you up to speed. Father Libardo and I are working on a project. We go to lunch on Mondays usually, and we talk about deep things. We don't talk about things in the news. We don't talk about what the Pope's doing. What we talk about is this circle of independent Catholicism. And what is that he, as a former Roman Catholic priest with a deep training in theology, and I with my training, how it is that we might be able to help all of our brothers and sisters here in this circle of independent Catholicism, because then that'll help all of us here in the American Catholic Church in the United States, and in turn I'd like to think that'll help all of us here in Holy Family. All ships will rise. So we're creating a project that we're tentatively calling Extraordinary Catholics. Think about that for a moment. Turn to the person beside you and say, "You are an extraordinary Catholic." Mm-hmm. You are an extraordinary Catholic.
You're an extraordinary Catholic.
Think about that for a moment, okay? Because most of us are familiar with ordinary Catholics, those who are part of this big ball of 1 billion Catholics. Those who are part of the big ball of 1 billion Catholics, the ordinary Catholics do things that we don't do. We are extraordinary or extraordinary. Think about this for a moment. Because the ball of 1 billion, what are some of the things that they do? They do things like excluding people. Dulce, out. You can't be a priest. Right? They exclude women from ministry. Get Father Libardo going. He used to live in the middle of Rome, where there was where the homophobia was rampant. Right? The witch hunts to persecute those who self-identified as gay within the Catholic Church. Get them started on that, right? Suddenly, we love you. We'll give you 10 years of training, but the day that you say to another person that you are gay, you're out. Mm-hmm. See? That's the ordinary. That's the ball of 1 billion. That's what it means to be an ordinary Catholic. The ordinary Catholic Church excludes people from sacraments, right? Those who are divorced, unless you've had Do you remember, Andy, I'm trying to remember, was it 2 years of classes we used to have for confirmation? I love the formation,
Yes, 2
just
years.
don't make it a requirement. Love the formation, let's get the young people coming in for formation, but don't make it a requirement, because that was an ancient heresy that we called semi-Pelagianism, that you had to earn the sacraments of the church. Semi-Pelagianism. The nuns would come to me after a year and a half. A person was in class for a year and a half, and then they stopped coming to class, and the nuns would say, they can't receive their first communion because they only came to class for a year and a half. Sister, seriously. Are you listening to yourself, sister? Semi-Pelagianism was condemned centuries ago, saying that you have to earn the sacraments of the church. If this child wants to receive the sacraments, and his or her parents say that he or she is ready to receive the sacraments, then let's celebrate the sacraments of the church. The big ball of a billion, they exclude, and they put all sorts of requirements like that. We are not part of the big ball of a billion. We are extraordinary. We are extraordinary Catholics. Huh. And so, Father Libardo and I were wrapping thought around this, and a lot of it started beginning around last October when we gathered in the same room, because we started presenting various themes that we continue to think about. One of the themes that I presented was on the 5 stages of growth within independent Catholicism. I don't know if you remember that. From stage 0, I'm alone. I'm a priest, I have a title, but I don't celebrate with anyone. How do I go from there to I am a priest with a community that gathers on a regular basis that's of good size and has considerable resources? How do we go from there? And how do we help our brothers and sisters to go from stage 0, I'm alone, to stage 1, oh, I'm celebrating the Eucharist with a few people, whenever I can, to growing into larger communities? That was part of our October experience. Also in October, Father Libardo started talking about the need for scriptures in the independent Catholic tradition, meaning let's start writing our stories down. Let me ask you this, how much do you know about our founding Archbishop, Archbishop Harms, whose ashes are on that altar? How much do you know about him? If we were to have a quiz, would we do very well? Right? Part of our scriptures, with a small s, part of our scriptures is starting to write down these stories, right? Capturing the stories of who Archbishop was, so that we can be able to share that with anyone who's interested in knowing about who we are, where we come from. Father Libardo uses a great analogy. He says, isn't that what happens with children? As children, or even as adults, we want to know where we come from, who our parents are, right? I've known of people, I have a dear friend who doesn't know his father, right? Doesn't know his father, but his mother, but he knows where his father is, and it's this big thing about wanting to meet his father. His father hasn't been involved in his life, but at the same time wanting to meet him to know, where do I come from? Who is my father? Cool. So for us to be able to know who our spiritual father is, Archbishop Harms, for us to be able to capture all these stories about the history of our community, that's part of what Father Libardo was talking about in October. Another thing Father Libardo was talking about in October was we call them the evangelical counsels, the vows of poverty and chastity and obedience. Do you recall that talk that he gave? Poverty, chastity, and obedience. Or as we used to say as friars, no money, no honey, and no funny. Poverty, chastity, obedience. No money, no honey, no funny. Father Libardo was essentially taking a look at that. Okay, let's understand them in the context in which we used to, in which those were birthed. Okay, maybe it made sense then. Do they make sense in the same way today? That was part of his exploration. And then finally, in October, we started talking about how do we start gathering together people and resources so that we can start growing this movement in a considerable way. And a lot of my thought recently has been reflecting on the present state of independent Catholicism in the United States. So are we ready to try some numbers here? So according to the latest directory, St. Willibrord Press has published a directory of independent Catholic bishops in the United States. And I believe Archbishop Johnson made the last edition. Don't know, you haven't seen it yet. Turn to the person beside you and tell them, what are you guessing? How many bishops are in the United States according to the last directory of independent Catholic bishops in the United States? In the United States, how many bishops do we have in the independent Catholic movement as of the last edition? Turn to the person beside you and mark and set, go.
¿Cuántos obispos en
I'll be honest with you, I can tell you there's at least 1,500 in Florida.
377.
Yeah, see, that doesn't surprise me.
Wow.
377 bishops in that directory. The challenge was that that directory is outdated. You know, as soon as you publish a directory, right? There are bishops who've died since then, who've gone home to the Lord. There are bishops who've been consecrated since then. And also that directory doesn't have email addresses, and it doesn't have phone numbers for the majority of them. So we're looking at mailing addresses that, if I had the time and the interest, I could mail everyone and see if they would mail me back. I'm imagining that's probably not the most effective use of my time.
And whether those
There's
are
another
outdated
directory.
too.
So there's a more updated directory. I've been waiting for that directory to be updated now. That's Archbishop Brian Ernest Brown in Arkansas, who's tasked with that project. It hasn't been updated for at least 3 years or so. We'll see what the next directory looks like when it's printed. In the meantime, we have an online database by Bishop Gregory Godsey. Maybe you've seen that one. I think it's Independent Movement.
Yeah, something.
You can find it online. If you Google, you'll find an online database. That one only has 160 independent sacramental movement clergy in the United States, 100 bishops, 56 priests, 4 deacons in the United States, and not all of those are Catholic, which is why I say independent sacramental movement. You know, some of them are Anglican. So the question that, one of the things that Father Libardo and I have been trying to explore is just to get an idea of how large this movement is. Is it a movement of 160 people? Or is it a movement of 377 people? Or is it larger than that? And our answer is that it's larger than that. Because the 160 people who are part of that online database, that's a good start, but it doesn't include everyone. The 377, the bishops in the outdated directory, it's a good start, but it doesn't include everyone. What we've done is we've pulled together 694 names so far of all the priests and deacons and bishops and seminarians, we include the seminarians too, that we can find in different jurisdictions as available online. So if you're an independent Catholic priest somewhere and there's no website or no way to find you online, then I probably don't know about you. If you're not on Facebook, then I probably don't know about you. But if you're on Facebook and or if you have a website, we've tried to pull together a more comprehensive idea of who these clergy are and where they come from. So by the numbers, we're looking at a movement of at least, and these are all undercounted, 694 clergy, which means bishops, deacons, sisters, in 208 local communities like ours. So we've counted at least 208 communities like ours, 208, who belong to at least 14 religious orders, and that's way undercounted because we know that we're going to find more than that. But these are, if they have some presence on the internet and or on Facebook, then we're able to say, oh, this religious order exists. And they're part of at least 38 jurisdictions. So we've identified at least 38 groups that are like the American Catholic Church in the United States, where they have a group of people who come together and give themselves a name. So at least 38 jurisdictions with at least 14 religious orders in 208 parishes or communities like ours, with at least 700 or so clergy. And again, I say that's undercounted because that's just, I think we're just scratching the surface. Where are we going with all this? Father Libardo and I continue to meet and to think through, because we eventually want to we want to do a lot of writing. Father Libardo is writing some articles, I'm writing some articles for us to publish online. The name of the website that hasn't been published yet is extraordinarycatholics.faith. So we'll be announcing the launch of that website during the coming weeks, extraordinarycatholics.faith. And the thought that we have is, yesterday, Reverend Patrice and I and Dr. Sean Horan, we know Sean and his husband who come to Mass here at the 10:30 Mass. So Sean is a professor at Texas State University and is interested in pulling together other professors who might be interested in helping us to better understand this phenomenon of independent Catholicism. All sorts of things are written about the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Catholic Church's theology, etc. But how much has been written about independent Catholicism? So an update of where we're going and what you might expect to be hearing in the future. We have a list of 694 clergy. We're now actively involved in reaching out to them, a lot of them through Facebook, since Facebook is easy and you can just copy and paste the same message off to lots of people. Creating a survey to be able to get out to them with his resources at the university. Dr. Horn is able to, get out a survey to us and to all sorts of other people so that it sort of like gives us some insight into who Catholic clergy are, what the communities are like, etc. But we're also thinking of doing it in such a way that independent Catholicism becomes part of the literature, meaning we're going through his university and others so that the study of independent Catholicism is legit. This is not Father Jayme making some phone calls and looking on Facebook for some indication of how big this movement is. This suddenly becomes us going through an IRB process, an internal review board at a university, where we get the university's permission to do this study as part of their programs, and then they assist us with the study. They gather all the data, and we come out being able to publish and give people a better idea of this thing called independent Catholicism. So that 10 years from now, when we find ourselves in this room again, we'll find ourselves reflecting back 10 years ago, but also 20 years ago when we didn't know anything about independent Catholicism, to be able to see, okay, where did we come from that time in which none of us, hardly any of us in this room, knew about independent Catholicism, to today, having formed a community where we recognize that our community is part of larger circles. How do we start pulling together a movement where we can start to help share our experiences? One of the reasons that we wanted to pull Father Lawman into this community this week is simply because Holy Family is a community that seems relatively strong in terms of the stages 0 through 5. Holy Family is clicking on a stage 5, and who knows what a stage 6 is, because we haven't gotten there yet. Maybe one day we'll be able to reflect on our experience and say, I don't think we're stage 5 anymore. I think we're stage 6. We're not there, so I don't know what that looks like. But it seems that Father Lawman's community is one of those few communities that would be a stage 4, stage 5 as well. And of those 694 clergy that we find online, I'm not sure that there are many of us, this will be fascinating, I'm not sure that there are many of us who've reached stage 4 or stage 5. So part of our research is going to take that theoretical framework and start putting communities and clergy into buckets so we can start seeing how many communities are stage 0, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. How many holy families are there in the United States? Wouldn't that be cool to know? How many holy families are there out
Can
there?
I ask a question?
Please.
Kind of going backwards to what you were talking about regarding the legality of sacraments.
Yeah?
In Galatians 5, it says, a law-oriented gospel is false.
Ouch.
And it says, who wrote it, Father?
Who wrote Galatians?
Yeah.
St. Paul.
St. Paul. St. Paul says something to the effect that we used to preach that all must be circumcised.
There you go.
So, for it to be legal is no longer a big thing. Because
Not since St. Paul.
if we believe it, that makes it true. If we really believe it, if like Jesus, made a new covenant with us, he put it in our hearts. I don't have to teach it to my family, to my friends, or to anybody. He put it into everybody's heart.
Amen.
So it doesn't have to be legal.
Amen. So it seems
The
like
law,
that should be the case for 2,000 years. It seems that, and I don't want to, at the risk of heresy here, it just seems that if you are a legalistic Catholic, that we would put you in the box with the Jews and the Pharisees, who were the strict law-abiding people who had 613 laws. Jesus came along.
This new church, this is the way we're doing it. It gives us the freedom, whereas the law restricts us.
There you go.
Now we have freedom. We feel better. And when we look back, we recognize that we were wrong. We were so wrong. We did not love the way God loves.
We were great at following the rules. We told the guys, you have to be circumcised. We told everyone on the table, you cannot have pepperoni pizza or shrimp or lobster or pork tonight. We were great at following the rules, maybe. It would be interesting to know how many rule breakers we were back then. But St. Paul came along and said, people, what are we doing here? Does it matter if you're circumcised or not? Does it matter? No. Does it matter if you eat that pepperoni pizza? Go ahead and eat that pepperoni pizza. Just love God and love.
Another big one was they're not allowed to go into a Gentile's home or to associate with a Gentile.
Oh, Andy, the comparisons are just so striking. Think about that for a moment, right? If there's another church who says, thou shalt not go to Holy Family into our home, isn't that, aren't we just...
I'm sure it's being said somewhere.
Cyclical. History is
Cristo Rey or someplace.
History is
However, my other question is, Jesus came in the sense to create unity. How do we create unity by talking about the walls?
How do we create unity by talking about the balls?
The walls.
The
The walls that, how about, independent. We're giving ourselves a label.
Yeah.
We surely don't want a label that's going to separate us. To create.
I'm with you.
We got to love them.
I'm with you.
We've got to create unity among them. We cannot feel like we're better than them because we're independent or because we have different beliefs. And who knows if our beliefs are really, we believe that they're newer and better, inclusive, but we're not the judge.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Father, I have a question.
Amen.
Okay, so what we're doing, we're talking right now about the circle and all that of independent Catholic and all. So what are we doing to bring this out to, in other words, to teach the people about our community of our circle as an independent Catholic?
Excellent question. So I see the saw cuts both ways. I see something that we have to do in two directions. One, how do we help to take what we're doing here and get it out to others and help to be mentors and models for other communities? How do we help them to learn from our experience? But also, how do we pull them, and this is not the word I'm looking for, but pull them into our community, meaning essentially, how do we let our community know that we at Holy Family are part of something that's larger than us? It's not just about coming to Holy Family on Sunday. We're part of a larger thing.
Because the question that arises this to me is that some people have asked me, well, I understand that y'all are not part of Catholic. And I said, wait a minute. Now,
So
you have a little argument in your hands.
Let me draw a larger circle then. So Holy Family Catholic Church is part of the ACCUS, American Catholic Church of the United States, which is part of independent Catholicism, which is part of Catholicism. And we have to recognize that in that circle, there's also the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church and any other Catholic church.
Because they're going by what they're here,
That's right.
or what's being put out there,
And we can't blame can I just say, we can't blame the priests, because if I, in 10 years of seminary formation, never heard once of independent Catholicism, that probably means that any other priest in this diocese probably has not heard of independent Catholicism until us. And so, of course, they're going to have wrong ideas, they're going to have misconceptions, because they are learning about us in the same way that we learned about them in independent Catholicism.
And in most
6
cases,
years
they're
ago.
going to go ask their bishop, who is definitely going to deny the fact that
Right,
we
see,
even
that's what
exist.
has happened, and like they claim, I like to come and join you officially, because I've got a lot of my family members in there too. And I said, we'd like to come join you in the family, but our bishop is saying over here, is sending a letter to our church, that y'all are not Catholic, or that they're not accepting the sacraments that y'all are doing at y'all's church. I said, no, wait a minute.
There you go.
So a while ago, when you mentioned that, and you mentioned that we were valet, then that kind of answered me.
Valid, maybe not illicit, maybe not legal,
Right.
but it's valid, it's a true sacrament.
See?
Like I told him, I said, if we were baptized into Christ, what can we be with just as much as you are? You're
So
Catholic.
if you or if anyone hears of anything from anyone in that respect, let me know. Let us know so that we can take care of that. I've found that the best way for me, when someone comes to me and says, Father, they won't accept my first communion certificate at this church,
Right.
I am happy on Monday morning to call that church
Right. See, because I go up to people and I try to explain to them that, yeah, just call our priest or call our bishop, and they'll let you know that yes, your sacraments that you have received at our church, they are good.
That's
They
right.
are accepted.
That's right. They are valid. They may not be legal. They can contest that all they'd like. They cannot contest that they're valid.
Okay.
So that gives you some foretaste of what may be coming in the years to come, in the months and years to come. That I say, just know that your pastor, yes, is concerned about Holy Family, but also is thinking about how it is that we can help to teach and to mentor and to model others and to learn from others, so that all of us together, wouldn't that be something if we were to find some way to be able to strengthen this movement? I'm not saying to grow this movement. We don't need another bishop in independent Catholicism. We don't. We have enough bishops in independent Catholicism. What we need are strong bishops and strong priests who lead and grow communities and are able to provide and are able to have relationships with us where we can learn from them and we can help to bring them to where we are, and they can help to bring us to where they are if they've achieved greater heights.
I think Bible study, the way I see the people in the group, everybody is growing. Everybody is getting stronger.
Yeah.
Because we focus on the book.
So what I'm hearing is one of the things that we can teach others has something to do with this model that we have, where it's not just going to Mass on Sunday, but there are the other opportunities for people to learn about their faith and to learn about scriptures, to learn about the Bible, to talk about that, to build relations with
And
one
I
another.
believe that, for instance, Mr. Don Limon, I really appreciated his homily, and in part because he used scripture, which I can believe 100%. He said the scripture and then what it said. And that's how he delivered his message,
Amen.
which made it very
Thank
strong.
you very much.
Deacon?
No, so this, what I was getting to the people that were gonna ask, and they said, well, do y'all have any pamphlets or anything y'all give out or whatever? And I was thinking about, is there any way we could get some made or whatever? I'm willing to work with anyone that wants to make them or whatever, and the cost, I mean, I can see by raking that up, what it would cost, to get explained, now it's an explanation of our,
So we have,
independent church, yes.
there you go. So we have at least 2 explanations already that we may not be aware of anymore. We may not use as much as in the entrance to the church. We have 2 brochures.
See?
And I will not tell you, who, but someone who comes to this church every single week recently came to me and said, I didn't know that brochure in the back of the church talks about independent Catholicism and it says it all right there. So we have resources like that for us to be able to share. Father Barlow and I are working on brochures for baptism and First Communion and confirmation and marriage and all that
To
sort of
open the
stuff. So we
people's
have
eyes and
other things to be able to share with people. I think you're absolutely right. How do we help to
And I'll be glad
educate
to
people?
share, and I will be glad to go spread up at visit places where I know today, and then people see them, they'll pick them up there, I think they would educate them a lot better and help us out too in that.
There we go. That brings to an end what I've prepared here. Just wanted to be able to let you know that here at Holy Family, we're excited to be part of the American Catholic Church. We're excited to be part of independent Catholicism. Let's keep our focus on independent Catholicism and the American Catholic Church, because that helps to shape who we are, and we help to shape who they are. Thank you. Should we take it 2 minutes? Other way?
I was gonna suggest that, maybe at, one of the service times that we issue those
Give 'em out
books. I
again.
mean, to everybody.
That's right. Share them again.
You put them out there and,
No one
people are in
takes
a
it.
hurry and, they wanna shake your hand before they leave and they forget about everything, so.
Promise me you'll keep bugging me about that until we get into the announcements one of these Sundays. I love the idea. Let's find a Sunday where we can get, because how long has it been now?
You giving us another 2-minute break, Father?
Yeah. I think